forward. We steam forward. Today I've titled my blunt thoughts, Ecocide Alert. How government officials and unpatriotic citizens are turning Ghana into a barren wasteland. Ecocide Alert. How government officials and unpatriotic citizens are turning Ghana into a barren wasteland. I'm sure with that word, ecocide, some of you are asking, what is that? Ecocide refers to the destruction of the natural environment by deliberate or negligent human action. Their crime for people who commit this is nothing less than attempted ecocide. Now, ecocide is the destruction of the environment by humans, and it threatens all human populations who are dependent on natural resources for maintaining ecosystems and ensuring their ability to support future generations. This morning, Ghana 4, before I even get into my slides, I want us to reflect on where we are as a country, as a people. Ecocide, some would refer to it as ecological genocide. We are in the midst of ecological suicide. That's where we are going. We are killing our environment. And when your environment goes, what will you have left? Everybody that matters. And I'm talking of specific bodies. Even now, the churches are wading into it. The Ghana Catholic Bishops' Conference, the Pentecostal group, all of them are wading in. Yet, we are where we are. This morning, I want to say this. I think it's got to the point where we be more ferocious, even spiritually. And you may say, oh, on TV, maybe you shouldn't. You know what? Everybody, especially these politicians who are involved in Galamsey, despoiling our land, our water bodies, even the air, because some of the burnings also go into the atmosphere. May a curse be upon them. Yes, all of them. They, their families, and their generations to come. If you read your Bible, you know very well that while everybody accepts blame for what they have done, so the children will not eat, or the elders will not eat sour grapes for the children's teeth to be set on edge. If you know your Bible, you know where I'm quoting from. But if these people who keep claiming, okay, for each one of them involved in Galamsey, destroying the environment that is meant for them, for us, and for generations to come, may a curse be upon them, their families, and their descendants to come. May they reap where they have sown and destroy for future generations. May God look at it and give them the reward for that. Come with me. Now, in terms of politicians scrambling to mine in forest reserves, the same politicians you see lining up, Green Ghana, Bell, Green Ghana, green. They are the same ones here, per the Fourth Estate. Emmanuel Boache, Wassa East DCE. Chairman Wuntumi, some of them, they are tough nuts in it, you know. As for Akunta mining, it's been in, even recently, again, on the Tano River, Ethiopia, Owusu Echao, Dwaben parliamentary candidate, Ohene Jan, a lawyer, who also dabbles in a number of things, and Sampine, CEO of the KMA, all cited, not by me, by the Fourth Estate. Now, let's go on. Now, look at the forest reserves involved. There are a number of them. This is not an exhaustive list, right? The Odan Forest Reserve, Tano Nimri Forest Reserve, where, you know, Akunta mining has been very prominent. The Boyen Tano Forest, Tano Surround Forest Reserve, and it goes on and on. Even river forest reserves. Let's go to the next slide. But then you have, you know, the egregious aspect of all of this. When politicians misspeak, of course, they are misleaders. So when they misspeak, maybe it shouldn't surprise us. But someone like the Majority Chief Whip, Frank Anodompre, I heard it and Charlie. Anyway, I was very happy when the Minority Leader challenged us that we will debate this matter and the culprit will be mentioned. You have had the opportunity to rule this country before. I can tell you, you polluted the water more than we have. You polluted the water more than... Technically, you should be using we have, not us. So let's get matters straight. It goes on. Next slide. That is what he had to say. Oh, but why are you being hard on us? After all, Mukra Muyebi. Hey, Ghana. You see why I'm cursing this morning? Do you see why? Because left to these politicians. And you see, what irks me is that politics is not bad. Go to other countries. Politics works. Go to Japan. Go to Norway. Go to different countries. Politics works. But our brand of politics and the breed of politicians we have, if we don't tame them, if we don't take out their fangs and their claws, they will destroy us. How many people in Parliament? 275. How many members of the executive, ministers? Even some people in the judiciary. How many? Put that number together and look at the general population of Ghana. How many people holding us to ransom? You look at the Galamsey forest reserves, 34 forest reserves affected. 34. Do you know what this means? That's why I'm talking about ecocide. Many of you have never heard of it. Ecological genocide. That is what is happening. 34 forest reserves affected. Next slide. 60% of water bodies polluted in terms of these forest reserves. 60%. Are we mad? At what point do we stop? At what point do we say enough is enough? At what point does our greed become satisfied? At what point? When all of Ghana is destroyed, when we don't have water to drink, that's the only time we'll stop to think. I was in the Netherlands, and they can drink tap water, pure. Try that in Ghana. Next slide. Turbidity levels in the central region. The nephelometric turbidity unit, NTUs. Look at this. Even what we are talking about here was high. 2,000 NTU. Now, look at us here. 14,000 NTU. 600% higher. No wonder the Ghana Water Company Limited is producing at reduced levels. And we'll get there shortly. Next slide. If you look at the drop in nationwide water production, the Ghana Water Company Limited has been warning us. One share ya, you're very important you. Maybe when it gets there, we'll start to think. 2022, the level was at 70%, 2024. And this is even 2022, how many years ago? When efforts were, we are 2024, 40% level. That is where we are. Let's sit down. MPP, NDC. Next slide. Now, what boggles my mind, I personally saw to this data and brought that. You know, the gold we are striving after and everything. Do you know the sad part? Even in Africa, oh yeah, we are the biggest producer of gold. Actually, if you look at in real terms, we are not. Because countries are sitting on gold. Even the USA, Russia, China, they are sitting on great gold deposits. They are not mining. Yeah, they are home praying, so let's mine. And it's because of the greed, especially of politicians. Because if you look at it technically, and you look at this list, Algeria has gold reserves, 173 tons. Libya, 146. Egypt, 126. South Africa, we like to rub shoulders senselessly. 125. Morocco, 22. Nigeria, 21. Nigeria, 21. Mauritius, 12. Where are we? 8.7. That's our reserve. Gold na ye fumuno. Sikakoko na ye fumuno. We are doing this with this puny amount of gold, destroying our entire environment because of this. And when it's gone, the consequences will be there for generations, 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 generations upon generations to come. If we are not wicked, like Prophet Odro will say, and maybe senseless, would we do this? Look at your reserves compared to others. They are sitting on theirs, they're planning. You are in a hurry, spoiling everything. That is why I am issuing curses on our leaders today. Next slide. Now, the key voices raising the alarm on Galamsey, Ghana Water Company Limited, CSE and Ethiopia, Ebahwa, Insuono, Obia Beko, Beko Ebra, and Boho, no cry, Insuomba. Who drink air. You drink. UTAG, Organized Labor, the Asante Hene, Media Coalition Against Galamsey, Christian Council and Catholic Bishops Conference, Peasant Farmers. Let's go to the next slide. And the demands? Simple. Declare a state of emergency. You say, oh, state of emergency. We are not saying declare a state of emergency in the whole country. After all, during COVID, didn't we do it? Even when we were milking the system to make all kinds of money from it, didn't we do that one? In core areas where this is affecting all of us, but in those areas, we say, lie, it is not there. Repeal LI 2462, and we know what that has done, and halt mining in forest reserves. How we got to the point where we now accept, let's go into forest reserves and mine there, only God knows. It is true. Only God knows the heart of man. Because if some of these people today doing this, how many years ago, if someone had said, oh, these people will act like this, who would have believed? Who would have believed? Seize and destroy illegal mining equipment. Provide sustainable employment alternatives. Let's go to the next slide. Now, the response from the Lands Ministry, and they always have such flowery responses. Mr. Jenapo, good morning to you. Reformative measures and strict enforcement will continue. So far, what has it yielded? RECSEC is mandated to intensify enforcement actions. National support is needed to protect the environment. Who is going to provide that support? Galamsey discourse should avoid political divisions. Next slide. He also says, declaring a state of emergency, that is in the bosom of the president. But I find that forget about bosom of the president. But I find that being far-reaching, being a very draconian measure to take. There are people who have invested in responsible small-scale mining, who are mining responsibly, contributing to the national economy, and employing hundreds and thousands of Ghanaian youth who have committed no crime. Okay. Make we do that now. I say, if it will take a wholesale ban, not for long, so we can streamline and say, Asemesi is doing well. Asemesi, you are doing the wrong thing. But how can you even complain when today an LI has been passed for people to be able to mine in forest reserves? No sensible country, I said it, go and search, does that. But in Ghana, we do that because of greed. And like I keep saying, as has been said, there may come a time when the poor will have nothing else to eat but the rich. So go ahead. Continue to create wide disparities between the very poor and the very rich, the haves and the have-nots. That day, God forbid, when it comes, we'll see who suffers. We'll see whether the money you've stashed underground, like we know some politicians have, in your basement and all of that. We'll see whether you can keep the money. I wonder whether they don't see what has happened in other African countries and how leaders, mighty, powerful, were drawn out like goats. Next slide. And he talks about, let's go to the next slide. Let's go to the next slide. Then finally, the NCCE on Galamsey. Illegal mining is a direct existential threat to our environment, public health, and the prosperity of our country. The parties must articulate and spell out without equivocation how they will address this menace. That's my friend, Kathleen Addy. She's trying with the limited resources she has. But I'll say this, and I'll repeat. Maybe these politicians are doing what they are doing because, the running mate of the MPP said, even God sleeps at night. I would refer him to Psalms 121, verse 1. The one who watches over Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. I guess maybe some people think God sleeps. Nyame wada. Omwada. They can do what they do. When, if you know any geography, you know that whenever it's night somewhere, it's always day in another part. So during which night does God sleep anyway? May God save our country. May He help us. Because where we are going, only He can touch the hearts of our leaders. And we ourselves, to stop being senseless, to stop being MPP NDC, and to take the mantle of saving our country. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. These are my blunt thoughts shared with you, raw, hot, unedited, undiluted. God bless Ghana and make her great and strong.